Hello and welcome to 5-Year Club video number 198, another story from the Japanese Family Storehouse, Book 3. This is story number 2, From Kyoto's Streams to Bungo's Baths. The local doctors had pronounced the old man beyond hope. The end was near. Quickly, a parting drink was pressed to his lips, a clamshell of fresh water against the seas of death. But even a few drops choked him. Tugging at his arms and legs, his sons begged him to heed their last injunctions. Listen, take the road straight to the western paradise. Don't stop anywhere on the way. You won't forget, father, will you? The old man's eyes half opened again. Don't worry about me, he said. I have lived for 63 years, and by normal standards that leaves no deficit. I have closed my account, and am ready to have the entries crossed from life's books and transferred by Emma to the books of Hades. I have no desire to stay. It is you I am anxious about. Never forget, my sons, that your future livelihood depends upon the seeds you sow in youth. Before he could say another word, he had gone. Without further lamentation, they turned to the laying out of the body. Really, a dead man's requirements were practically nil. Simply a shroud, it seemed, and 6 zenny for the road. The thought of the old man making his last journey under these conditions depressed them. It was a meager allowance for 49 days' travel to the next world, and would make even a ride on a hell horse out of the question. That's kind of a weird sentence. It was a meager allowance for 49 days' travel to the next world. I guess that's the Japanese thing. There's a little footnote here I could read later. And would make even a ride on a hell horse out of the question. So I guess there's a special way to get on a hell horse to get to the next life faster if you want. Fair enough. Alright. The son who inherited the family fortune resided, as his father had done, in the town of Funai in Bungo province. His name was Yorozuya Sanya, and he was a celebrated figure in the locality. For 3 years, abiding strictly by the rules of mourning, he suffered not so much as a dislodged roof tile to be replaced, and at each anniversary of his father's death, he performed the proper rites with genuine emotion. He accumulated merit by the performance of charitable deeds, and he demonstrated the utmost filial consideration for his widowed mother. It was only natural that such perfection should meet its reward. In his father's dying words, as he remembered, the possible importance to his livelihood of certain seeds had been mentioned, and since rape seeds could be pressed for oil, he had begun to think these might be the ones intended. He gave the matter continual thought, but could not decide whether it meant making a fortune by buying a stock of seeds on speculation, or simply growing them. A fortune, at any rate, he was determined to make, and night and day he revolved possible schemes in his mind. One day, traveling in rough open country, far from any village, he passed by a broad stretch of overgrown land which had lain fallow since time immemorial, and the thought struck him that such a place as a breeding ground for wolves was a loss to the national economy. Accordingly, some time later, he secretly made the experiment of scattering rape seeds there, and in due time blossoms appeared, and then more seeds. Seeing that the land, even untilled, could produce such results, he now applied for permission to reclaim it for cultivation. He was granted tax exemption for 10 years, and during that period, having uprooted weeds, levied hillocks, erected scattered groups of dwelling houses, and hired laborers to till the ground with spade and hoe, he made a yearly profit and increased his stocks of money by no one knows how much. With the capital thus acquired, he sought new markets in the home provinces, transporting his wares by sea, and greatly expanded the numbers of his assistants. Step by step he rose to the position of the leading millionaire of Kyushu, and the very thought of want banished from his presence. Some time later, accompanied by his mother, he set off to see Kyoto in the spring. Though the attractions of cherry blossom might be said to differ little from place to place, there are marked variations in the attractiveness of the blossom viewers, and here in Kyoto city of alluring women. It was not the blossoms bedecking hillsides and floating down streams which claimed Sanya's attention, but the blossoms walking down the streets. Cruel fate! For what past sins, he wondered, was he born in the backwoods? Memories of Bungo province quickly faded, and day after day he abandoned himself to the round of city pleasures. His time was limited, but before leaving he took into his service a bevy of comely concubines, 12 in number, and with these he traveled back to Bungo. Alright, and this is Sanya watches a fun battle, which I guess is a dude watching a bunch of women with kind of rake fan things. Maybe it's some kind of dance. I don't know. Let's go see what else happened. Next, he set about the remodeling of his home on Kyoto lines, a task which he executed with the greatest thoroughness. On the faces of the tiles lining the overhanging eaves, he set his initials in gold relief. Close by each of his 4 walls he raised a 3-storied stronghold for treasure, and immediately beyond the entrance hall, the focal point for 120 yards of corridor, he set aside a spacious waiting room, lined with bookcases and hanging scrolls. Along the east and west of his garden he raised miniature mountain ranges, and to the south he sank a private inland sea, its shores lined with boulders to suggest the cliffs of Lake Shi. The stepping stones studded its surface were semi-precious rocks, and the hanging bridges were of Chinese sandalwood. In a nearby pavilion, whirls of painted dragons in the Seshu style adorned the ceiling, and crystal lanterns in silver frames cast lights on ornamental bolt heads of agate and beam ends capped with pearl. The floor was spread with velvet-trimmed tatami mats, padded with pure silk wool. Here, amid further perfections to which no pen can do justice, Sanya whiled away time gazing at the morning snow or relaxing in the cool of summer evenings. He invented a new game called the War of the Fans, a modification of the flower battles held at the court of Swansong, dividing the comely girls. Alright, come on. In his service into battalions on his left and right, and arming them with sticks surmounted by fans. Seated directly between them, all perspiration banished in gusts of gold flashing air from either quarter, he smiled graciously on the ladies from whose direction the breezes blew the hardest. The battle over, he twisted the drooping fans of the defeated from their sticks and cast them on to the pond, crowning his enjoyment with the poetic spectacle of fans adrift on the stream. Even old Mano, with all his millions, never did anything so extravagant. Alright, so this is like his version of Calvin Ball, but in like a dirty old man way. Alright. A man's affairs are his own, and others can never judge their rights and wrongs. But there remains the censure of heaven with which to reckon. Sanya's whole household lamented his behavior, but Sanya went on as before. So long as the family's senior clerk was at hand to guard the cash books and to see that, if the stores of copper and silver could not be defended from the master's incursions, at least the 60 square yards reserved for stocks of gold should never be at his mercy. There was little danger of the household being seriously endangered. But there are no certainties in life, and in the early winter of his 58th year, from a mere chill taken on a frosty morning, the clerk departed this world. From then on, with the keys of every storehouse in his charge, the master gave full rein to his extravagant fancies. After investigating the properties of various waters available in his own province, he became convinced that, after all, there was no water like Kyoto water, and he arranged for the falls at Ottawa in Kyoto to be tapped every day on his behalf. Barrel after barrel of it was shipped over the seas to faraway Bungo, to be boiled up daily for the brand new bathrooms, and wash cubicles in Sanya's private residence. In ancient times, there had been a Lord Burner of Salt, who had transported salt water to his garden in the 6th ward of Kyoto to remind him of the salt works along the Chika coast. Sanya, who filled his tubs with water from the capital, was nicknamed Lord Boiler of Bath, and the neighbors waited expectantly for the last puff of smoke to fade above his kitchen chimneys. Were not long disappointed. Late one winter, when a complete review of the accounts was undertaken, the whole dispersals of more than 5,000 kanmei were discovered to be 1 manmei 3 fun in excess of the family capital. Thereafter the gap grew steadily wider, and, just as a 2-mile dike may be overwhelmed by the water which trickles at first through an ant-hole, so Sanya's business finally collapsed. On Sanya himself, too, misfortunes accumulated until his own life became forfeit, and all that had yet remained to him was confiscated by others. That's it. So when does this guy run into trouble? I can tell you in my personal finance terms, the most obvious thing, right? Which is he goes on this trip to Kyoto, and he's so impressed by Kyoto that he feels the need to upgrade his personal residence when he gets back, and his mind is mostly spent on his personal residence and not on his business. And this is a key to the whole thing, right? A personal residence is not an investment asset. It cannot be relied on to grow your net worth. And so if you are thinking more about how to decorate your home than you're thinking about how to grow your wealth is going to go down. It's not going to work out. You have to, set aside at least 50% of your thinking in money affairs to growing the net worth, and every single other thing you think about that has a significant relationship with money has to occur less often than thinking about how to grow that net worth. Otherwise, you're going to end up like Sanya. It'll be fun for a while. You'll have your fan battles, and it will be very amusing. But eventually, your keeper of the accounts, your clerk is going to die, and then you are going to be broke. On Sanya himself, too, misfortunes accumulated until his own life became forfeit, and all that had yet remained to him was confiscated by others. And so, houses are nice, residences are nice. Pick one that fits into your budget, that doesn't completely dominate your budget. Enjoy it, but reserve most of your money thinking for growing net worth, because that is what is going to give you options, good options, and success in the long run. Alright, that's it for 5-Year Club video number 198. Hope you enjoyed it. From Kyoto's streams to Bungo's baths.